right now. Our draft guru, Jeremy Wu, he is the Wizards taking AJ DeBonsa with that top overall pick. But this draft, it's so much deeper, right, than just the top 5. Yesterday, the field of draft prospects, it crystallized a little bit more because the NBA draft withdrawal deadline, it hit at mid-length. So projected first-round picks, Christian Anderson, Allen Graves, Koa Pete, they actually all decided to stay in the draft, but several top 40 players, including Andrei Stojakovic, will be returning to college here. And you can see other top prospects in the transfer portal waiting for decisions to be made here, which brings us to some breaking news, because this is the last year we're going to see the current draft lottery process. Shams Charania is here with more. Shams, I understand that the Board of Governors meeting, it just wrapped up. What exactly did they decide on how the draft lottery is going to look moving forward?
Malika, sources tell me that the NBA's Board of Governors has voted and approved new anti-tanking rule changes, draft reform moving forward, starting in the 2027 NBA draft. The draft lottery will now move from 14 teams to 16 teams. Overall, there will be flattened odds, but most importantly, the bottom 3 teams will be punished with lessened odds moving forward for the #1 overall pick. It's called the 3-2-1 lottery reform because now if you're a bottom 3 team, you will actually be penalized with lesser lottery balls, as in 2, than other potential teams that are slotted 4 through 10. I'm told the vote passed 29-1. The Memphis Grizzlies were the lone team to vote against, and that's because they have the Utah Jazz pick next year that now, because of the new rule, which has a couple stipulations, one being you can't pick #1 in back-to-back years. The second stipulation is you can't have a top 5 pick in 3 consecutive years. So that Jazz pick now will not be able to be a top 5 pick. The Grizzlies are receiving the bad end of an unintended consequence from what is now, for the NBA, a radical response to radical behavior. The NBA felt that there were nearly 8 to 10 teams jockeying for lottery odds down the stretch of this season, and the goal from the relegation zone is right now to try to get those bottom 3 teams to compete to stay out of that area and have more lottery balls, and for teams that are slotted 4 through 10 to not be in that relegation zone because you don't want to be there because you have lessened odds. So trying to incentivize winning, and this comes after months and months of conversations, debate, brainstorm. And Malika, one more point to add. With this vote, the Board of Governors have now given Adam Silver increased disciplinary authority to implement a wide range of action depending on tanking violations moving forward. Fines up to $10 million. He can take draft picks away. He can also have teams forfeit their picks. He can change picks. He can change odds. So this now gives Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, increased authority.
Wow. All right. So really bringing the hammer down on tanking. That is the idea behind this new policy, Shams, that the Board of Governors just voted to pass. Not unanimously, but voted to pass. Thank you very much for that insight. I do want to bring Brian Windhurst into this discussion. Brian, Shams does such an excellent job at explaining something that I think is very complicated. And yet, sometimes NBA fans talking to folks, their eyes glaze over a little bit at this new tanking policy because it is incredibly complicated. So can you just distill down what is the most important thing to take away from today's vote?
Yeah, it used to be if you were a bottom 3 team and boy, or 4 team, and boy, did teams really try to get in that bottom 4, you had the best chances. And now they're just making it very hard for you to win the top pick. So under the current system, which we just had, if you were in that top 4, you all had a 14% chance of winning that #1 pick, and obviously a really good chance of being in that top 3. Now, if you've got one of the worst records, your chances of getting a top pick have been slashed. You have a much better chance of falling into the 6 through 12 range, and you could fall all the way to 12th, Malika. You could have the worst record in the league and end up with the 12th pick, and there's a reasonable chance you're going to be back there. So they want teams not tanking to get into the bottom 3. They want teams fighting to the finish to get out of the top 3. And look, They understand that this is a triage situation. This is a bleeding wound. And the reason we know that is part of this is that they're only planning to do this for 3 years. This is a 3-year window. Now, they may extend it, but they've already got what they call a sunset provision in there. The sun's already coming down. We're already past noon. 3 more years, and they may take this away. But I also think something's interesting is that with the lottery will no longer be numbers anymore. It will literally be balls with the team's logo on them. And I suspect that the NBA will do it live. Yeah. That they will watch, and all the fans will see the balls come out with the team. It won't be an hour later or whatever, which breaks my heart because I love that intrigue. But those will be the differences that we will see coming out.
But you're right. Having this in place for 3 years is the NBA saying this is an acute problem. We need to deal with it now. We know that this may be a slight overreaction, but that is how egregious we see these tanking violations as. All right, we'll have more on that as we march towards the NBA draft. But starters are always putting up big numbers. Tim McMahon, Michael C. Wright covering Oklahoma City, covering the San Antonio Spurs for us. Tim, I'm going to start with you on the OKC side here because we heard from Shams earlier in the game. It doesn't sound likely, although J-Dub is questionable, that he is going to play in this one. So how are the Thunder planning to continue to adjust here?
Howdy, Malika. Look, J-Dub's been questionable the last 3 games, and the routine's been he does his pregame shooting thing. They rule him out 45 minutes before tip. But these have not been game-time decisions. As a matter of fact, Jared McCain was informed before shoot-around going into Game 5 that he would be in the starting lineup. And Jared McCain has really become one of the main characters for the Thunder, not just this series, but over these last couple rounds. This is the one guy in the rotation who wasn't part of the championship run last season, who doesn't have a championship ring, but he has what these guys call contagious confidence. Doesn't matter if he's made or missed his last shot, his last few shots. They know it's going up when he's got to look. They want him to let it fly. That's why they plugged him into the starting lineup, to give him some offensive juice. And he also just has this upbeat, always smiling kind of personality. I think it might have rubbed the Spurs the wrong way, judging by a little Plumlee elbow and Biyombo giving him the hard foul. But we'll see if Jared McCain, with that jump shot, will be smiling while they are accepting a Western Conference championship trophy, because if the Thunder can win this one tonight, there will be a ceremony right here midcourt in San Antonio.
Right. I am curious to see whether or not, if J-Dub is in fact not able to go, if they stick with Jared McCain in the starting lineup. He started slow, but he had a huge second half for OKC. Michael, on the Spurs side of all of this, Victor Wembanyama, we've talked about it a lot. He struggled in Game 5. He didn't speak to reporters after the game, so we haven't actually gotten a chance to hear straight from him. But what have you heard about how he was digesting that game, about how he plans to respond tonight?
Well, the interesting part about that is we still haven't talked to Victor Wembanyama, but I am told that his decision to not speak with the media was sort of like this internal motivation thing. I don't know if I necessarily buy that, but you also have to understand that Victor Wembanyama is the same guy that said he refuses to carry the burden of hiding his emotions. So obviously it was an emotional game, and there was a lot of buzz in the locker room about them being upset about the refs. So maybe him not talking saved him from saying something that he would have regretted. But I got to tell you, Mitch Johnson, he said Victor Wembanyama has to take more than 15 shots in Game 6. He's got to have more than 20 points. Steph Castle said, look, we understand that Vic is trying to play the right way, but we need Victor to be aggressive, because when he's aggressive, it opens up shots for everybody else.
And maybe that's what we saw Keldon Johnson trying to say to him in that very KD Draymond-esque moment that we ended up seeing ahead of Game 5. We will see how Victor responds here in this all-important winner-go-home Game 6. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Enjoy the game. Michael, to your point, Wemby, though, he went for just 20 points, 27% shooting in Game 5. That's after he scored 30 a game on 53% shooting in the first 4 games. In fact, he made at least half his shots in each of his first 4 games before that Game 5, where he had a little bit of a clunker here. But, Janae, there's a big reason why. It's not just Wemby struggling. Someone is doing this to him. Tell us what's going on here.
You know what the kids love to say? He understood the assignment. This is an assignment right here, this matchup. Isaiah Hartenstein taking on Victor Wembanyama, and he got a check mark in the last game. Let's show his impact, because he helped limit Victor Wembanyama to 4-15 from the floor. First and foremost, Victor, he pushes him outside the lane to get him to the top of the key, and he's able to guard him in single coverage and have a good contest. That's one. That's on the inside. Now let's talk about the outside, because Victor Wembanyama going into Game 5 was shooting 43% from 3. He has his feet outside ready to defend, but most importantly, he has help on the backside. Shout out to Case of Wallace for being able to react here, slow Victor down so that he buys Hartenstein some time. And now, once again, he's on an island in single coverage, and he's able to, as Perk would say, move those puppies and contest. That was the effort defensively that Hartenstein had. Now let's switch over to offensively, because it's wild. The Thunder, they shot 69%, 11 for 16 on Victor because of plays like this and shots like this. The patented floater that he has with the left. It's really nice, and it's because Victor often sees himself in help side. Watch here. This is where Hartenstein is. He's in the dunker spot. Again, Victor is in help side guarding two, which means he's a step late. Hartenstein makes the right read. The extension is there. I always say that his wingspan is infinite. He knocks his floater down. Another possession. He's always moving without the basketball. He's looking for it too. Here, he's generating offense. Here's a nice little slam screen. Once again, Victor's in a conundrum. De'Aaron Fox is late here. He's having to guard here. And then again, Hartenstein able to create enough separation for him to get his floater. Again, Victor Wembanyama, I'm excited for the response, but that is the matchup, both on offense and defense, that will really